Thank you for joining us. We're here to talk about design in New York. So for a lot of folks, might not necessarily be aware of New York being a design center for the world, but it is. And a lot of really exciting things happening. I've got Sonia here with me from the NYC EDC to share with us what's happening in New York with design and how is the city supporting design companies that come here, set up here, or are looking to do business here. So Sonia, maybe we could start, welcome, and maybe we could start and you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi. As Charles mentioned, my name is Sonia Park, and I work for New York City's Economic Development Corporation, and we're responsible for shaping the city's economy, helping entrepreneurs and new businesses grow in New York City. And we do that in a couple of different ways. We work on infrastructure, like we own and operate the New York City ferry system. We also had a hand in building the High Line, and then also own or operate like the maintenance of the Greenway that's around Manhattan. So if you go just a couple blocks over, you can see like the New York City Greenway. We also asset manage about 66 million square feet of city property. And so, we were just talking about buildings and creating creative campuses throughout the city. Brooklyn Army Terminal in Sunset Park is one of those. We also have a new campus coming online called the Made in New York campus, which is supporting film, TV, media, and fashion manufacturing. So creating a creative hub to get the industries to have interdisciplinary working space and collaborations that can come out of places like that.
Great. So New York City has been called the design capital of the world by many folks. What makes the city so attractive for design companies right now?
I think New York City has a million building structures within the 5 boroughs. That's a lot of buildings, but then that's a lot of product. That's a lot of urban design, spatial planning. And so when you think about all of that opportunity, I think that's great for designers to be able to see the diversity within that and then also have some inspiration around that. It doesn't even include like public spaces. If you walk outside, you can see there are lots of people enjoying the city. I mentioned the High Line earlier. There's also the Shed. Even like right across the street, there's the Beehive that was just constructed. There's just so much innovation happening around design that can be really inspirational for everyone.
Yeah, and I do want to get into that a little bit later. The public face of design versus some of the stuff on the private sector side. But maybe we could start by talking a little bit about the design ecosystem in New York. What does it look like, for companies, for customers, and also for the city?
Yeah, so the creative economy in New York City, it's over $100 billion. It represents over $100 billion. It's about 1 in every $8 of economic output for the city. So there's, 8 million people are spending a lot of money here, plus tourists. And then in addition, when you look at kind of like the ecosystem of creative, it's really about like film and TV are number one. There's media, there's advertising, architecture. You have the 2 largest revenue driving architecture firms in the world are here, but then you also have really innovative firms like with headquarters here as well. Soleil, I feel like if I'm going to name some, then it's going to be like a little bit difficult. But there's like all small and large, and then on top of it, you have legacy industries like fashion, media, and industrial design, artists that have all come out of New York City in all different areas. So it's just an incredible opportunity for designers to engage with the ecosystem and then also come up with new innovative ways to create their craft.
Yeah, and I think we've seen over the past couple decades a tremendous amount of shifting of industries, and then we've seen the city and especially the NYC EDC take a really strong interest in taking underutilized spaces in the city and transforming them into centers for industry and design. So I know we were talking earlier about Industry City. There's also the Brooklyn Navy Yard and a few others. So maybe you could share a little bit about what the city's vision for those places are and how they're looking to support companies or attract companies for those particular areas.
Yeah, I mean, our campuses, the Made in New York campus and the Brooklyn Army Terminal, are assets that the city owns. Brooklyn Navy Yard is a city-owned property as well, managed by an outside firm. And it's really about how do you bring, like I said earlier, these multidisciplinary areas together? How do you co-locate them, provide performance space, provide venues where people can go eat, and food manufacturers can look at or have manufacturing plus their retail space. So mixing creative aspects of manufacturing, design, and retail into one space so that the public can also enjoy the campuses. I mean, I was speaking to somebody earlier about Brooklyn Navy Yard and how you can get off a New York City ferry, take an autonomous vehicle to your building, and then really be engaged in a number of different things, right? You have New Lab, you have the Rooftop Reds, which is the winery, there's Wegmans, there's Russ and Daughters, but then in addition, you have like Made in New York designers like Catbird Studios, Lafayette 148, a lot of different fashion, but then really innovative tech companies that are also redesigning how people think. And I think that's how we're really looking at different spaces. Like, what is the natural ecosystem of a neighborhood? Williamsburg has a lot of design, a lot of manufacturing, a lot of innovation that's happening, or tech that's happening there. And so how do you take that natural community and then make a space for them so that they can grow and thrive?
Yeah, so it's bringing the creative and the industry together to create new innovations and community centers, really.
That's right.
That's right. So in addition to these design and industry centers that the city has been working at building, what are some of the more individualized ways or programmatic ways that the city supports design companies either setting up here or doing business here?
Well, so we have a small business services office, our agency within New York City, and they help with a lot of getting through a lot of the policies and red tape that the city might have in terms of setting up a business. But for EDC, we have a small business resource network as well, which is kind of like a platform that allows small businesses to access free services like legal, marketing, digital, things that small businesses might need in order to really thrive here. And that's in partnership with a lot of businesses and a lot of major businesses that exist in the city.
And are there any programs that you've seen in the past or that are coming up that target specifically companies in the design space or the creative space to either bring new design to the public or to promote the industry generally?
Yeah, so I mean, NYC by Design is actually a New York City and NYC EDC project. We partner with them on the project. I sit on their board. It's a program that was started within a New York City agency, and EDC actually ran it for 6 of the 10 years that we're celebrating their anniversary of today. And so, I think for a long time, it was primarily just this moment in time, the 10 days during the festival. And so I've been working with them on how to think about, how do we think about doing year-long programming, and then how do we see how we can continue to support the designers that make up the festival and that come here to see all the great things that are happening. We also have, the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment is another creative agency that exists within the New York City's ecosystem. And they primarily focus on film and TV, but they also are looking at other creative industries like gaming. And then in addition, we set up the media lab with them, which is similarly a co-working space where you could have freelancers come. They had opportunities to do podcasts. There's a lot of different new technologies that you could explore there. And then we also set up an AR/VR lab where people could come and use the state-of-the-art technologies, learn about AR/VR, and then really think about how this new technology could be incorporated into products.
Yeah, and I know that over the past day and even during the entire NYC X Design, we see these themes of sustainability come up in conversations. Can you help give us a sense of how the city is thinking about sustainability when it comes to design?
Yeah, I mean, the city, obviously with things like Superstorm Sandy and, the city's goals to be carbon neutral in 2050, by 2050, we are thinking about a lot of different ways the city is very complex in terms of how you run it, right? So, there are a lot of different agencies that are meeting about this. Within EDC, we're looking at a strategy around green economy that incorporates circularity, that incorporates new food systems, how we can support new material innovation, and then also looking at that 66 million square feet and how we can make those more sustainable and more carbon neutral. I think buildings in New York City represent a significant portion of the carbon that we emit. And so with things like Local Law 97 that is coming down the pipeline, those are things that are happening to ensure that by 2050, New York City could be carbon neutral.
And if I'm a company coming from outside the region here in New York or coming from overseas, what should we be thinking about when it comes to setting up our business in New York?
I think establishing a network is really important. Meeting people, going to events like this, speaking with people that are either your consulate or kind of being able to create that network so that you aren't sitting in a siloed space, not really understanding what's happening. I think that's one thing. I think for sure, working with a government agency like SBS, Small Business Services, SBS, so that you can kind of get a lay of the land of everything that a city agency might be able to help you with. EDC focuses a lot on industry writ large, how can we help advance industries? How can we, we worked very hard over the last 10 years to become the second biggest tech city in the world, and so we're
soon to be number one.
Yeah, definitely soon to be number one. And so I think we definitely help support small businesses through our properties and providing affordable real estate to our tenants. But I think realistically being able to understand what city programming exists, taking advantage of those things, and then being able to have a real network that could support you in terms of everything that you might need, learning about new innovations. I was having a conversation with a woman yesterday, and she was telling me about how she's at the new lab in Brooklyn Navy Yard, and she was telling me how she was meeting with a technologist, a tech innovator, and they were describing a technology that she wanted to start to incorporate, and that's kind of the interdisciplinary opportunity that exists here. And if you have that network, being able to kind of explore new things that will really create the solutions that you don't even know exist.
Yeah, and we saw that when we were touring some of the locations, how if somebody has a 3D printing machine, they will lease that out to their neighbor who is producing a completely different product, but they're able to collaborate in very simple ways or come up with new ways to collaborate due to the proximity and these business and cluster communities that are being built here.
Yeah. There was actually, we also have the makerspace at Brooklyn Army Terminal, and there is all the different types of machinery you might want if you're just like one person that wants to learn how to make something or design something. And it's really, that's exactly right. They have like a water laser cutter, and then right next door to it they have like 3D printing machines, and then right next to that they have like an entire fashion sewing area. And a lot of the manufacturers there was a really innovative 3D knitting manufacturer there, so full garment knitting, and they needed a factory to sew on pockets to some of the garments, but they don't, they're a 3D knitting machine. They're a fashion technology manufacturer. And so, like 2 doors down, they were able to find a garment manufacturer that did cut and sew for runway, and they were always collaborating on different ways to innovate their product. And so I think, it's not, real estate is, before working at EDC, I never thought about real estate as a thing. It was just like, fine, I need a space. But that, that spatial community, that network is really, really critical in terms of business success.
So real estate is more than just about space. It's about what's happening in the space.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
I like that. So maybe we could have some parting thoughts, some food for thought for our audience and those watching. What are you personally really excited about in design? Like in terms of what's happening in New York today, or what's going to be happening tomorrow? What gets you excited in the design space in New York?
I mean, I think, I'm really excited about the mayor's blueprint and his, he identified a lot of investment in the creative spaces, creative economy, looking at Governor's Island and how to make that a space for artists and creative industries. In addition, with the Department of Design and Construction, they've identified 20 firms that they'll work with, 10 of which are from minority or women business entrepreneurs. And I just think, that focus on making sure that there's diverse pipeline within industry is really exciting. And sustainability, I think, is something that's so needed, and I'm glad that it's finally getting the shine and attention that it really needs. But on a personal note, I'm really excited about Frick Madison, the Basquiat show that's happening right now. Frieze, obviously, the Virgil Abloh show at Brooklyn Museum. There's so many exciting things that are happening in New York City now until through the summer. I'm just so excited that everyone should go out and experience all the fun things that New York City is known for.
So if you're not here, come to New York for the summer.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I think that's a good note to end on. Sonia, thank you for joining us today. We had a really nice conversation, and I hope it was insightful for everybody who participated. So thank you.
Thanks.